Welcome to the Scaling Creative Podcast. My name is Michaela, and I'm joined by some of my friends, Pablo,
Hi.
Scott,
Hey.
and my beautiful friend, Brittany, which
Hello.
I'm so excited about. I just wanted to say too, like, besides being a business owner, which we're going to get into your story in just a little bit, but Brittany is known for her charisma, her joy, her authenticity. Whether you take a class with Brittany at Bar 3 or you do have lunch with her, you will leave her space just feeling like brighter, bolder, and more joyful because you just are a ray of sunshine. And
Thank you. I appreciate that.
my life is blessed because you're in it. So I'm so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I'm really honored to do this. So thank you for having me.
I can just say you must be doing something well because my wife goes to Bar 3 all the time, and I think it's the longest commitment, other than me, that she's kept. So she clearly the brand is good. We're gonna talk about that, but it's she loves it, absolutely loves it. She
Thank
tells
you.
me to go all the time. I will not go, but it's just because I don't exercise. But you're doing awesome.
Well,
I can't wait
appreciate
to hear your
that a
story.
lot. And to this day, I mean, nothing makes my heart happier than to hear that people are enjoying the experience. It's
awesome.
really important to me.
That's
That's
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So Brittany, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we'll kind of start there.
Okay. My name is Brittany, and I own the Bar 3 Allentown and Bethlehem studios here in the Lehigh Valley. I am a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, titles that really are important to me, but I'm also a business owner, which is really exciting and another honorable role. Gosh, we've owned the Allentown studio. It's turning 5 this spring, and Bethlehem will turn 3 in this spring. And yeah, and I'm actually not from the Lehigh Valley. We
where are you
moved
from?
here originally from New Hampshire. Live free or die, baby. So yeah, my whole family's up there still. My husband and I moved here kind of transient through many other places. And we painted some rooms and we set up some roots and opened up a business, and now we're here.
So tell me about, like, why Bar 3? How did that all begin?
Yeah.
Like, did you have a dance background?
I do. I grew up dancing. I worked professionally for several years. I lived in New York City. I performed on a cruise ship. I worked with a small traveling dance company for a little while. And a little bit after that, my husband and I reunited, and he was a helicopter pilot for the Army. So we traveled together to several different bases in the United States.
Okay.
And his very first civilian job after deploying twice was in Oklahoma City. And I went kicking and screaming. I mean, when I tell you,
Yeah.
I was like, let's get back to New England with our family. Don't take me somewhere like Ohio. Like, I want to go back to my New England roots. Like, those are my people. I've been traveling with you a lot. He's like, okay, we're going to Oklahoma. And I legitimately got in the car, like, kicking and screaming. It was not my proudest, most beautiful moment at all. But I will say, the day that we drove into Oklahoma City, we passed through just various businesses, and I saw a building, and it had the sign up at the top, and it said Bar 3. And being a dancer and a teacher and a choreographer, it instantly popped into my vision because the word bar was obviously in the title. And so, I mean, we hadn't even been there like 12 hours. The next morning I took class, and it literally changed my life. That very first class changed my life.
What about it?
So I was clearly brand new to the area. I didn't know a single human being other than my husband.
Yeah.
And I was a true new client. I walked in with my dance bag. I had like 3 costume changes. I had a yoga mat. I had like all my dance shoes, all the things in my bag. And the woman at the front desk, her name was Brittany Morse. She greeted me with the most beautiful smile. And to this day, she is my dear friend. I took class with Lindsay Parks, who to this day is still teaching Bar 3 and still my dear friend. And I think it was maybe the next day I met the owner at the time. Her name then was Andrea Mason, and still to this day, a very dear friend of mine. I mean, they changed my life because I was a complete stranger. I knew no one. I was going into this new experience anticipating being very lonely and nervous and scared. My husband had a job. We moved for the position, and they immediately became my new family, my new friends, and they welcomed me with open arms like I've never been welcomed before. It was just the most incredible transition. So I was a client first. I became an instructor for them at the Bar 3 OKC studio. And then about a year later, we transitioned here to the Lehigh Valley. And there was no Bar 3 here. So again, I'm starting in a place where I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
We moved from my husband's position. Luckily, I had made some really beautiful friends through the training process of becoming an instructor. And I met two women that own the Bar 3 Morristown studio, Lisa and Rebecca, and they were just so wonderful to me. I was this young, impressionable woman that had traveled to Portland, Oregon to train. And they also, again, incredibly community-based, welcomed me in and said, if you're ever back in the Northeast, call us. We're here for you. And I did. I called them like, hey, I'm not that far. I'm like a fat hour from you guys. And here I am alone again.
Yeah.
Do you need anybody? And they were in the transition period of working their underground and preparing to open their studios. So I was so lucky to be able to experience their pre-opening stage. Through that time, I became pregnant with my first child, Vivian, who is now 6.5. And it was, again, a beautiful experience of camaraderie and friendship and leadership, but also learning the ins and out of opening a studio. They were really thoughtful in sharing a lot of how they were doing, what they were doing, the struggles they were going through, and how they were going to implement opening this new exercise studio in Morristown, New Jersey. And so I was so lucky to experience in Oklahoma City one that had recently opened and how they were building, and then one in New Jersey that was just starting to build. So I was able to experience the opening of their Morristown, New Jersey studio. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds like the culture is what drew you.
Huge. It's huge. I mean, Bar 3 is a fantastic full body workout. It incorporates strength conditioning, cardio, and mindfulness. And that's the workout. And it's brilliant. Incredibly results driven, solid, constantly evolving, science based. I mean, it's this spectacular experience. But I love it so much because of the community, because of the culture. Whether it was in Oklahoma City or Morristown or now here in the Lehigh Valley, friends of mine have become my family, or strangers have become my most beautiful friends. And again, we moved here knowing absolutely no one. I mean, it was my husband and I, and again, that was it. And now we have the most sensational family, community, friends, and culture that as a mom, like I can share that with my very impressionable 6.5-year-old little girl, right? I mean, all about strong, proud, hardworking, kind littles. And I have a 3-year-old son, and he too, I mean, strong, kind, hardworking, just really beautiful people.
Yeah. His name is Guy.
Yes.
When
The
he
big
was,
guy.
When he was little, though, Malin would always be like, oh, this is man.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, close guy. But like,
Actually, yeah, right. Same. All the things. But it's funny. He may or may not answer to Guy. He thinks his name is Big Guy. He's like this little Viking king, and he think that's who he thinks.
He's always been a big.
Yeah, my children
Big
are
baby.
not frail babies there. Yeah, like Amazon's growing in our house.
So let's go to the start. So having the idea to start something and starting something is a whole different challenge. There's a lot of people that would love to do something, and there's very few that actually do.
Yes.
What do you feel like what was your biggest drive, or what kind of self-awareness did you have to be like, I want to actually own this place? Like, you had great experiences, and I think a lot of people go into a bar, they go into a company, they're like, this is awesome, I'd love to own this. And then they're just not good at doing it, or they just were like, too big to handle the idea of starting my own thing. What advice do you have to people of like when you actually should decide to take a passion and decide you actually want to do it yourself?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And let me be incredibly clear that I have never done this on my own. Like, this is not a one-woman show. It hasn't been since the beginning. And to this day, we're not a thriving business because I do this on my own. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's a thriving community and culture in business because I have the most amazing support. And it really starts with my husband, Adam, who since day one has never left my side in the support that 1, we could do this, or 2, we should do this, and 3, like, we are going to do this. Yeah. We've been really good about working together, which is hard with a significant other to be professional and work in that professional environment. And he still has a full-time job. You know, this is my full-time job, but he is just as involved when it comes to be it operations or just the support. I mean, he's all in 100%. But not just my husband, but our families. They were always supportive, whether it be my parents or my in-laws or even just our siblings and our friends. I mean, never has anyone looked at us and been like, are you sure? So I think being surrounded by just positivity always. I mean, we've questioned things like, is this the best decision or this? But we've never encountered, and we're really lucky and blessed that that's not the case, but we've never encountered I don't really know this is a good idea. Like we've been really surrounded by people that are like, yes, you can do this. And there's going to be some really hard times and you're going to struggle sometimes and you might not always be, thriving to capacity, but you can definitely do this. So just having the encouragement, one, from my husband, business partner, like life partner, but also from our family and our friends. I mean, they've never left our side when it came to this. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. So, but like I said, this is not a one-woman show by any means. And that, again, is starting in the beginning, even from like writing a P&L report or writing our business plan or our statements of how we're going to try to elevate throughout the next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But to this day, I have the most spectacular team on the planet. And I can say that with full confidence. And whether that's the experience inside the studio, whether it's who's running retail or the operations or the instructors or social media. I mean, I have a team of people that do this and we all work together really well. Everyone's open to ideas and change and none of us are perfect, right? We're always looking to improve. And I think that's why our team and our studios are so successful because none of us think that we know everything about everything. All of us work really well together to listen. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all recognize that our team members want to be seen and want to be heard, but that also goes to the community.
Yeah.
So we try really hard. We do our best.
Yeah. When in the beginning too, just kind of going back to some of your question, before you open a studio, there's a lot of work that goes into awareness of it because you think about, okay, so Bar 3 wasn't in this area or if somebody's looking to open a business and there's nothing like it around, how did you start to spread awareness and to network? Like, what did that look like?
I love that you asked this because we're actually coming back to this now that we're growing into our 5th year, literally from the ground up. We began really sharing what the product was. So in Bar 3, our product is a class. Yep. At the moment, it is a 60-minute full body workout. So we began underground, and this was our way of sharing, like, if you have a hot dog stand, sharing the sample, sharing the hot dog. Yeah. So we shared Bar 3 in my basement. My husband built just a mini little studio. I mean, and it was amazing, and we loved it, but it was my basement, and I started just inviting my best friend Courtney over and was like, so you want to come over and do this little workout in my basement? Like, how do you feel about that? And she was like, sure, anything, whatever. So she started, and it started with one person, right?
Yeah.
And then it grew.
She came in, the music was bumping.
Legit.
What are you bringing me into?
Yeah. She has one friend sign in. Like.
It was just she and I in my basement. Perfect. And then it grew to our other best friend, Michelle. So there's the two of them in my basement. And I was like, all right, y'all, so we're going to do this thing. We're going to open up a Bar 3 studio. Cool. And I need to get the word out. How do we do this? Can you help me do this? Would you be willing to do this? And from my two best friends, it grew into, at Thursday nights, at like midnight 30, right? Because you're working crazy hours. Yeah. At that time, I had Vivian, so I have a really little. So you're doing work whenever you can, anytime, anywhere. Right. I would post, was it Sign Up Genius or something at midnight 30 or something at Thursday night. So our 2-person crew in my basement grew to, I would post it. And it would fill up in a hot second because people would be super excited to participate. And you had to sign up for my basement because, we had like no space. There was like 10 people max, really, and it would fill. So we went from once a week, maybe 30 minutes in my basement to growing our team, recruiting instructors, and hosting, I don't know, a daily class in my basement, in the morning or the evening. I mean, my neighbors probably thought I had a brothel because there would be like SUVs outside my house and all these women walking in and like legging, you know what I mean? Yeah. Who knows what my neighbors thought at the time, but it was such like a curious thing. All of a sudden, collection of people. But that really began the community and the culture. That's really where it started because yes, we would host this 1-hour class in my basement, but then we would sit on the stairs or in my yard or in the basement and just chat. And get to know each other better and make these really awesome relationships. And people, one, who may not have ever found each other before in their regular life, maybe would not have ever found each other, but became incredible friends. Or people that hadn't seen each other in a really long time was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in ages. What are you doing in Brittany's basement? Like, how did that happen? So that was really cool too, because literally right before my eyes, I got to see either relationships be created or reunited. And again, I love the results-driven Bar 3 workout, but my favorite part is the people and the community, truly.
Yeah. And that's so so genuine and authentic to who you are. Because I think a lot of businesses can sometimes say that, oh, it's about this, but it's really not. It's about P&L is profit and loss. I think for you, like P&L is like people and love.
Yes. I don't know anything about numbers. I'm the worst when it comes to operations. Like, again, this is why I draw people in that are smarter than me, that is their skill set and they crush it. That's not my jam. And I can like we were talking about this earlier, I fully recognize things that I feel very confident in and I feel like I can contribute something positive. But even more than that, I can recognize what is not my strongest skill set.
And I think at the beginning when you start, you kind of somewhat do everything yourself.
You have to,
and you have to be a little bit good at a little bit of everything. But then when you even get to being able to hire the second person, you hire your weaknesses. Like you hire people that do things that you aren't good at.
Recruiting is a constant part of my job. And I think I've become really confident in spotting talent. And not just talent of teaching a exceptional Bar 3 class, but a talent in connecting with other people or something that maybe that person doesn't even know that they do really well, but I can see that. I can see where they're thriving. And like I said, recruiting is like my number one job because we're always looking to onboard people that, one, love Bar 3, right? Like that's one of my number one things that I'm always looking for. Do you love and understand the brand and the business? Because if you do, then there's probably a fairly strong chance that we can work really well together. But I also like to know, like, can we sit and have coffee? Can I sit with you in my living room and have a glass of wine and have a legitimate heart-to-heart? As much as, can we sit and strategize how we're going to create our 2020 community-free events? Like, can we work on all levels there? Because our team is much more than a team. It's a family.
Yeah, I think it's so important, too. It's, like, I've always tried to hire people before skills to a point. And obviously, they have to have certain skills, but at the end of the day, like I think there's too many companies that hire unbelievably talented people who are like cancers to their organization just because they're great at getting results. I know everyone hates them, but that just kills an entire culture. And no one, but it takes like the humility of realizing this person's way better than this person, but nobody likes them, and they're actually killing my organization entirely. And the numbers that they bring in only go so long until the whole culture of your place is destroyed.
Absolutely.
And it's so it sounds like that's obviously important to you too, of hiring people, because you can hire, like, you can teach skills in certain things.
Of course.
Certain skills have to be in people. Like, I don't know if I'd ever be an instructional fitness coach because I am not into fitness but
hey, you never know.
But like, you never know. but you can't. I feel like you can only really change a character so much. You can only change who someone naturally is so much. But you can get them to be better at the skill that they have a little bit of, but they're an amazing person.
We can also offer support and tools and continual ed. I mean, again, they're not alone. We're doing this together. And we can grow in that area together, and I'm more than happy to provide that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I felt like so I haven't mentioned this yet, but I was an instructor.
Yes, I feel like that's a huge part of. We should probably share that here. And a brilliant instructor at that. A brilliant instructor.
I
Yes.
loved it so much. And I will say too, like when I first thought about becoming an instructor, because Brittany planted the seed ever so beautifully. Like she was like, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" And I was like, "No, I've never thought." But it
should.
Yeah.
Now that you say it, though.
Yeah, but then it was this little seed that was planted in me, and then I thought about it like more and more, and I was like,
It just marinades in there for
yeah,
a
it
little
really
bit.
does. Just in the back of your
That's what
head.
she does well. She does planting seeds.
Plant the
here.
seed.
Yeah.
I spot talent. I know.
Yeah, but the support and learning, because I didn't know, I'd never taught anything before. I'd never taught fitness or knew a whole lot about quote unquote musicality and like all that kind of stuff, and working with the beat and all that jazz. But when you have support, when your boss and the people behind you, like you have support and you're going to learn, like you can go into a job, I think, with way more confidence.
Yeah.
Just knowing like, I'll learn it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and none of us are claiming to be perfect or teach a perfect
Right,
class.
right.
None of us. I mean, we're constantly learning. I am at the top, like I am constantly learning every single day. And I make a lot of mistakes, a lot. But if we can't make a mistake, how are we able to grow?
Right.
I mean, perfection, quite frankly, is incredibly boring.
Yes.
And it doesn't exist in the first place.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not even a
Everyone's
thing,
bar
but
is different.
I think that we
No
can
pun
work
intended.
hard, constantly work hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can try and grow and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
and we all got to be open to fail.
For sure.
And we also have to be open to learn from that too.
Sure.
And Bar 3 has done a good job of, because one of the things I always say that will always remain the same is that they'll always be changing.
Yes.
And that's like a thing, which we talk about this all the time on this podcast too, is businesses that are not willing to change and shift as time goes on. Like if you stay the same, like
Yep.
you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
So change is really important. But speaking kind of that, so you went from one studio to 2 studios.
We did.
And the brilliant thing is you've been able to maintain the culture and like the brand of, I know that it's a franchise, but I think too that you almost as an owner like are a brand. And so like Bar 3 Lehigh Valley is a brand and a culture. So how did you keep it the same through the growth?
Again, because I didn't do it on my own. We, talked about the idea of opening a second studio and started looking generally in the area pretty soon after Allentown opened.
Okay.
But really didn't execute it. Until about 2 years after, like diving deeper into that. And at that point, we were able to grow a team of support and knowledge and interest, and also just being acutely aware of what people were asking for and inquiring about. People would commute and transition to Allentown from other parts of the Lehigh Valley, but we noticed that there was a need and there was a want in the Bethlehem area. So, it was never a guaranteed thing. It wasn't, we never had the intention of always opening 2 studios. Again, it happened kind of organically with the real estate became available, and we walked into the space after looking into several spots, and there's a bit of luck involved in all of this too. There's strategy and there's planning and there's support, but there's a whole lot of luck, salt and peppered into all of these things. And that happened with Bethlehem. A space was available. We had a great team looking into that. And I also knew at the time that we had the support and with the current Allentown team that we could expand, we could grow, and we could continue to grow in the Bethlehem area.
Yeah.
So again, it wasn't a solo mission by any means.
Yeah.
And
how would you
Allentown was doing well, so we had confidence that we had made some good choices, had learned from some other choices.
Yeah.
That if we were to do it a second time, we were already a little bit more educated in how to do it again, even from the ground up, from building the studio and how to design it and who to work with when designing it and when to implement certain things. And so that was incredibly helpful in the second studio.
Yeah.
So culture obviously is unbelievably important, especially in that kind of field where, people love their instructor, and now their instructor's not at Bethlehem or not at Allentown. They have to go to Bethlehem. How have you found that you can teach and make more culture happen from place to place? Because I think that that's what people struggle. I think everyone would agree that that is ultimately what drives like Bethlehem having success, because you have the same culture there. Making it happen is a whole different story. So how have you found?
Well, they're not two different entities. You know, we have two studios. We have Allentown and Bethlehem, but collectively we're Lehigh Valley, and we work together to create that. The team that works at Allentown is not exclusive to Allentown, and the team that works in Bethlehem is not exclusive to Bethlehem. We might have a, you know, quote unquote home studio that we might spend a little bit more time at, simply because their residence is closer to that studio. So their flight path, it's easier for them to participate in that studio. But I would say like 99, or if not the whole team, transitions to both in some capacity, even if it's just one day a week. They're involved, whether it's the operations team, the instructor team, our play lounge team. They work together so cohesively, and we're constantly in communication. They're not separated, you know, in our private texting messages as we're sharing information, or in group emails. I mean, we're one unit of Lehigh Valley. We just happen to have two locations.
Right.
So the team is constantly flowing. It's very fluid and very organic between the two spaces. Yeah, there was not like a divide, like you are now this studio and you are this. And our clients have the availability to go to both too. The same thing, they're not excluded to one studio. There's opportunity to focus their attendance in one studio versus another one for a community, but they always have opportunity to go to both.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, and I think one thing too that I've always noticed with you, Britt, is that like when we would have team meetings or team outings or whatever, I mean, you invited everyone. It wasn't just the instructors that were there. It was the ladies that clean the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have an amazing way of making everyone feel a part of the family and of the team, which I think is so important for business owners. You know, when you are building a culture, that it's not like these levels, and in order for you to like get to me, you have to be here kind of thing. Like it depends on the culture that you're wanting to build, really, but it starts from the head up. So you've just done like such a great job. And
everyone is the same on the team. There's no hierarchy. We can't thrive and elevate like we're talking about, and I can't withhold this culture if there is a hierarchy. Like, yes, our instructors are overwhelmingly important, because that's the hot dog in my hot dog stand. You know, they're selling our product. That's my product, is the class. You know, we sell very few things: classes, retail, and play lounge. Yeah. So they have to execute an exceptional class every single time. It's right? Like that's what we have. Right. But my muscle team is equally as important as, and they're like my unsung heroes. I mean, we don't really see them as they're cleaning the bathrooms or the lobbies or the studios, but you notice that as a client in the studio. Yes, you do. How clean and how well put together the space is. Our play lounge, equally as important as everyone else, because mom or dad, they need an hour too. I mean, they need that hour to reboot.
That's my wife's favorite part.
They're right? I could not have opened the studio without play lounge. I could not have done that. I couldn't. I need that support. And knowing that the people in that space are kind and warm and welcoming and will genuinely take wonderful care of your little baby is going to be in really great hands. And we're just on the side of the door. Like, if we need you, we'll get you, but we got this. Like, you got 1 hour. Eat that up. And operations, they are my glue. I mean, they're the first person you see as you walk in the door, the last person you see as you exit. Their job is not just, answering phone and checking people in. What they do throughout their shift is, the list just right out the door. They do a million things.
They're the face of your company. The first impression.
And they are the glue that holds it.
First impression, doesn't matter how great your instruction is, if someone comes in seeing
if
someone
they can't get through
doesn't look like they want to be there. The amount of times I go into some retail experience and like someone doesn't even say hello, I'm like, are you kidding me?
It's so true.
But that's hard too. Like, you've done a great job. I think positivity flows out from you, so you naturally attract those people.
Thank you.
But I'm going to ask a hard question and say, how many people have you let go? How many have you fired? And I'm not going to ask you for the number as much as what happens when you choose a person that you thought was right for it and you don't think that they're right for it anymore?
So this,
I think this is how business goes to,
Yeah.
right? You hire someone that you're like, this person is perfect.
Yeah.
And then they come to your door and they're like, wow, they are terrible with working with people, or they're terrible at this, or how have you dealt with that difficulty? Because it's a reality.
It
You'd
is a
love
total
to think
reality.
that you're the best hirer in the world and everyone you pick will be there forever. But it doesn't always happen that way.
It doesn't. No, that's so true. And it doesn't work that way. Sometimes as our team grows, it's natural, it's organic. Like life changes. There has to be ways to adapt to your life and
Injuries.
And right, exactly. I mean, all the things like it just.
We have lots of injuries
sometimes-
here.
Right. Sometimes it just happens that way. And other times, I will say, I think that
I know, I'm putting you right in the
there's
spot.
been a common thread that maybe this position or this experience isn't elevating both of our lives anymore. And that can be a personal transition. It could be, just life shifting in ways where priorities are changing of where they want to bring all their energy. And sometimes it's just time for them to outgrow what we're doing inside the studio. And that's okay too. My expectation opening the studio was never that the first person that I hired would be with us till the very, very end. I love that loyalty and I love the idea of growing for years and years and years. But priorities change, life changes, and as humans, we have to adapt to that.
Right.
Sometimes it's a brilliant transition. Sometimes it's a little bit tumultuous and maybe not the best transition. My hope is that over time, even if it wasn't the best transition, that like we understand that it was okay and a learning experience for
Right.
both of us. I mean, it's not always easy, and sometimes it's fast and dirty, right? It's like, I got to be out tomorrow. And sometimes it comes over time that we're noticing changes in energies brought to the studio. So it's not easy. And I certainly don't say that like it's never happened. It definitely
Right.
happens for us, for sure. But just various levels for
Yeah.
various reasons. And I hate having that conversation. It stinks whether it has to happen quickly. It stinks
Yeah.
whether it's like, is this working for you still?
Right.
You know, I want it to be a place where it's filling my team's cup as well as they're willing to walk in and fill up
Right.
the cups of our community.
That's a great point.
And that changes, right? Like we don't all show up to work at a 10. We don't. Can we recognize when we're a 3 out of 10? And what do we do to have to make, even just bump it up a little, find an 8, just like, but if we're just living at a place that's like a 2, 3, like maybe it's time for a shift. Or maybe something's happening at home and we have to draw new focus to that. So
And I think it's tough because you're in like with your coaches, for example, if someone shows up not feeling it, it's not easy for them to do their job well. But I think that the culture that you have, because it's something I know that I've worked at, I can naturally be a person that's not always like incredibly happy. But I realized just the importance of like getting a person from a 3 to an 8 or a 10 can have a lot to do with who they walk into in that day, not just before they even see customers or whatever, or people who attend the class, whatever you call them. They I think are driven so much by like the energy in the room in a
the
big
studio.
way. Because sometimes if you're not in a great mood, it's just a reality. You have bad days, you have bad mornings, and if you come in, what culture you're building in the whole place can drive whether they are like, by the time they're ready to actually instruct, are they entirely different?
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So some of the main things like I'm hearing from you, first of all, is I think culture starts with you. And, when you attract more of who you are. And so I think just because of who you are, like that's the culture that you've built. And then 2, I love how open you are about like, I'm not good at this and I'm not good at so I fill people in those spots.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as leaders, we try to be good at everything. And there's things that you've just got to let go of and just like, be in your sweet spot. And the areas.
And I think where people mess up, because I know that this is something that people start, and like we talked about earlier, you kind of have to be, you have to quote unquote be good at everything to start to even operate.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what happens is getting your ego to realize you're actually not good at that.
Oh yeah.
There's people that do it better. Is the hard part.
Yeah.
Because like you have to know accounting when you start a business, even though you may suck at it.
Right.
And eventually, because you realize you have all the skills, because now you're operating a business, it's actually making sure that you like bring yourself back down from your pedestal of like, I'm not the best at this. Like if we had a really, really, really creative, super important client edit to get out tomorrow, like I would have Pablo edit it before me. Like he's a very great creative. And the whole point being, when I start, I have to be the best because I'm the only. Yeah. And then it's realizing like when I bring someone in, it's a win to me if I bring someone on that's way better than me at something. Where it used to be more like you feel like you want to hold back because you're kind of thinking internally, well, they can't be better than me. Like I started this whole thing. But I think it's so important in any brand to realize, and I think clearly you're great at that because you talk so much about your people. But I think that's something that owners struggle with because they have to do it all. Then they have to actually come to the reality of what you're really actually not as good at as you think you are because you've done it.
Which actually lines me up for my question. You just put the ball on the tee and I'm about to swing here. So I have a lot of friends that own different franchises and I found it to be very interesting that Bar 3 is a franchise. I just kind of learned that like today. So that's amazing. Me too. Yeah. So that's
I thought there
cool.
were two in the world.
I mean, me too.
In the world.
Apparently there's hundreds. That's amazing. So my question, I guess, is like obviously with a franchise, you're going to have systems in place that you're given.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're going to have to create systems. So my question, I guess, is like, obviously when you started, it's all hands on deck. You're doing your thing to get systems in place to make it happen. But now that there's people involved and that you said that you're growing to multiple ones. I've learned that like the most successful companies and organizations in the world have systems that work and people that make them and stuff like. So I guess my question is kind of like, how have you seen like your internal systems mature over this time? You know what I mean? Like maybe it might be a detailed question, but like I guess like how has that been important? I guess with people being involved in your organizations.
I think it's matured because I have made a lot of mistakes. So, but truly, like every time I screw something up, either myself or my husband and I or the team and I, we have to be like, okay, so what can we do better next time?
Evaluation.
And exactly. Self-evaluation for sure.
Okay.
And then just collective evaluation. Like, again, maybe we need to shift things within the team. Is somebody else, can we bring somebody else who can do this better than what we're doing right now? Or is there another resource that we can take advantage of that can also help in the growing of whatever we're working on?
Right.
Or do we need to grow as a team in some capacity to bring more knowledge to what we're doing? And if we have a strong nucleus in the studio, we're also going to attract those types of people. So our community is all those types of people that we're hoping to grow with. So if our team is kind and hardworking and willing to deal with mistakes and grow from these, then we're going to attract that kind of person. And maybe one of those people can help in these systems, right? I mean, we're a brand, we're a company, we're a studio, we're a team with a huge love of learning. And that's one of our core values. And I'm always willing to learn. Yeah. And I think part of that comes from feedback from our community. I mean, when we receive feedback, whether it's good or, constructive feedback, that is a gift. That is a gift on a way that we can either keep doing something really awesome or maybe we can improve upon something. So these systems, they're, again, organic. They're constantly evolving. Every year we look back and think, whether I'm not a super data-based person, again, that's not necessarily my wheelhouse. I'm much more like the emotional side, the touchy-feely of it, I mean, probably why I own an exercise studio.
I know.
She totally gets me.
You attract people that wiggle just like that.
Who are these people?
Here comes the shimmy. But true. It's like again, understanding what I'm strong at and not.
Right.
But data is not necessarily my, I don't always understand it, but my husband is really good at that. So he and I can talk about it and really start to bounce ideas off one another. And so our systems, as we put our policies and procedures into place, they're constantly changing, right? If is this working well for our community?
Sure.
Yes or no, like that we have to adapt to that. And or was this change not a solid one? Like, do we maybe need to reevaluate this? So again, being open to change, being, humble enough to like understand that some of this isn't going to work, but confident enough that we have the team and the tools to continue to grow and make this amazing, not just for 5-year anniversary, but like 10 years, 15 years. I mean, who knows how long?
Sure.
Does that answer your question?
No, that's great. I think it's a very twofold thing, because I see companies that clearly you know how to love people well and love and care for them, which is great. But then you can also tell, like, and I'm not saying that you do this, I'm just saying that in general, like there's this like old saying that's like passion over polish, which is like you can be super passionate about something, but if it's not done well, you can feel that, in, when you walk into a company or a place or whatever. So it's like, and it sounds like you guys have both together, which is like, I think that's like amazing if you can find someone who does that, And
we try with that. Trust me that we struggle with that sometimes too, because we put policies into place like guidelines, be it for us as a team or for our community. And it's more just to keep things smooth so everyone can experience something sensational and exceptional each and every time.
Right.
But there has to be a human sense to that, right? It can't be incredibly rigid all the time. Like, one example, we have a 4-hour cancellation policy, and that's to allow clients enough time to prepare for their day and their class and to participate. But listen, we get it. Life happens.
Sure.
Something's going to happen in that 4-hour policy time bracket. Just call us. Let us know. We'll do our best. I mean, there has to be a humane and human side to these policies that if there's an explanation or just like a conversation. I mean, we're all human. Trust me, stuff comes up in my world all the time. Personally, I actually very rarely sign up for class ahead of time because I know that my daily schedule is constantly
I don't know what I'm going to do next week.
I know.
Exactly. I mean, throughout the day. I mean, that's just, I understand that of my day.
Right.
So sometimes it works to my advantage and I can jump into a class. And sometimes class is full and that would have been my spot. But I didn't sign up at a time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, there's a little bit of that. So with all our policies and procedures, and we do our best, right? We have guidelines, all these things, but there has to be like a human side to it, an understanding. Of course. And that's something that we're constantly working on, It's like putting locks on your doors. It keeps the honest people out. Having these policies and procedures, we like just to keep it smooth and clear for the whole community.
Sure.
But we do understand life happens. So just talk to us.
Yeah.
We'll do our best. Not saying that we're always doing it right, but we will try our best.
That's cool.
So what has been your most difficult thing so far in the 5 years that you've been, have you had a day where you were like, geez, I don't know how long I can do this? From how positive you are, I don't know if that day existed in your life, but
Right, was it a one day? Is it like a whole year day?
What have been some of the just difficulties of owning a business? You can be as passionate as you want, but there are just days that it's like, this is sometimes a little harder than other days.
Yeah, I will say advice that was given to me in the very beginning, and it was more of an experience share, was just be prepared that managing your team is going to take a lot of effort and energy. And I have to say, we have a 50-person team.
Which is crazy.
Which is a wild and magical and amazing because they are 50 like unicorns, right? Like I've 50 unicorns that I get to work with. Meaning they're just like out of this world, just creative and thoughtful and kind and hardworking. And I would say not even like, I mean, it is challenging, but one of the more spaces where I have to put a lot of energy is managing 50 different personalities.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we don't all work the same. We don't communicate the same. We don't have the same lives happening behind the scenes. So just the juggle and the work towards balancing and how to support all of them, but also, I mean, Bar 3 is not a volunteer position. It's not a hobby. It's a job. And for probably all except maybe one, it's not a full-time job.
Right.
So I also have to resonate and understand that they're putting full-time energy and full-time efforts into a part-time job. So also finding that in the back of my head, like this is my life. It's not even a job. This is my life.
Yeah.
Because if it's not successful, I'm sleeping on your couch. You know what I mean? Like this is all there is to it.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Sleep over. The girls would like
they
lose
would.
their noodle.
Oh, yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, like this is my life.
Yeah.
So it has to thrive and it has to be successful. I have a sensational studio manager, Erin, and it is her full-time job. And I have a brilliant mentor, lead instructor mentor, Lisa. And Lisa has a more than full-time director position based out of Philly. And I mean, they're like my bookends, really. Like the two of them, they hold me up. They're two incredible pillars in my life, and they really, truly help me bring in the focus here. But I have 50 people overall where it's part-time. Like I said, not a volunteer. It's not a hobby. It's a job. So maintaining relationship with them, understanding the energies that they can and cannot give sometimes in their life, and managing personalities. Because I will say, I think most of the team gets on swimmingly, but on occasion, right? Like, how can you expect everyone to get together or all the time? So that would be probably the most energy has to be given. But honest to goodness, never have I said this wasn't a good choice. I don't think we should have done this. I'm not gonna knock on wood. It's not gonna sound good on the podcast, but pretend I'm knocking on wood. But
You're a great learner.
It is
Yes, she is.
love of learning. But to this day, it's one of the best decisions I have ever made.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it is so, it's the interesting thing too, is like you said, you have 50 people, 50 different personalities. The craziest thing that I've learned too is just how people change, their lives change, and so what's important to them also changes in their season. So as hard as it is to manage 50 people, those 50 people also change.
Yeah.
The longer you have someone, the more things change in their lives. Like someone that you hired with no kids and no wife, and then gets married and has kids.
Yeah.
Where pay used to be the most important, now time off is the most important. And
Absolutely.
where time off used to be the more important, now the title is the most.
Yeah.
So it's not just the 50 people. It's like the longer they are, the almost sometimes trickier it can start to become, because you have to know they're changing. Their lives, the things that were important to me when I was 21 are not important whatsoever anymore.
Yeah.
And as a boss, you're trying to not only know people, but know what's constantly changing is so tricky.
Oh, it's incredibly tricky.
Because
We have a lot
understanding
of
each
that
person is
happening
so
now.
unique.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that happening now. Families growing, new positions professionally happening in their lives that might draw them out of the Lehigh Valley, and kids growing and changing, and significant others. Their lives are, I mean, a lot of these people have significant others in their lives, and their lives are changing too. So, I mean, it's not just adapting to my team, but everything that, again, happens in their world outside of the studio.
There's a guy we do a lot of work for that talks a lot about empathy, and I think it's something that I'm not great at. It's something I need to learn better. But just the importance of realizing just how people coming in with certain attitudes, or having an off day, or having better, like trying the best you can to have empathy of, like, we all have bad days, and we also have things that you have no clue. Like someone comes in and they're in a bad mood, and you're like, what a grouch. They could be going through a time that you don't even know, depending on like what's going on in their lives or things around them. So trying to have empathy of like, if I don't really know what's going on, I do the best I can of realizing that it may be way tougher than just an attitude that I'm.
Absolutely. We are constantly reminding each other, me reminding myself and the team reminding each other, that we have to seek to understand before being understood, right? Like I said, that cancellation policy, we have no idea what's happening behind the scenes in 99.999% of our community. And they might come in smiling and had just a brilliant day. They might have had a horrible day. It might be a horrible week, or they might have been struggling with something well past a month of something that's really hard. So what we can offer in that moment is just like a smile. How are you?
Yeah.
I mean, and genuine, authentic. And that's something, right? Like my team, they might come in at a 3, but they have a role as part of this team that also needs to be executed like strongly.
Yeah.
Even though a team member's identity might be in a really hard place.
Right.
Our job, our role is to help to elevate them. So we also recognize that if the community's coming in from a hard place, I mean, we have to seek to understand before being understood. And that's something that we're constantly trying to remind each other, like I said, myself, and understand. And that goes to community and the team, you know, like we all got stuff. But yeah, it's not everyone walks in with their cup full. I mean, they're probably not. That's why they're walking in. You know? 'Cause they need a little lift there.
I was gonna say I have a friend that lives in my town that goes to our church, and she is a mother of 3, and she only goes sometimes when she can, but it's like that literal hour is like the only hour she takes for herself, like maybe once a week.
Yeah,
You
my
know?
wife does 3 a week. She literally schedules them like months in advance.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like her
Sometimes. So it's
It
cool that
literally
you're
fills
like
her cup up.
offering an experience. That's like really cool for people.
Even so I was an instructor for a little over 2 years or something like that. And those 2 years were really difficult years in my life. Like Brittany, poor thing, has had to deal with some difficult things that I've had to go through. But the one really cool thing was that sometimes when I would go into a class and I was at a 3 at best, I also knew that, you know, that I needed to be at a 10. And when you're standing in front of a room full of women, like you just want to love and encourage them. But there was a moment, like there would be days where I would come in feeling horrible, but leave so much better myself. Just because sometimes when you know, not that like, I hate the fake it till you make it thing, but I think it's just, there's a matter of just be more of what you want to be.
Right.
Like if you want to be encouraged, be encouraging,
Right.
you know? So like, I felt like as an instructor, those were probably some of the best years of my life, even though they were hard, but it was because, you know, I had to step into sometimes feeling better than I was actually.
Good. Are you ready to come back?
I would love to.
Yeah, because it's not
We
even,
can talk about that offline.
Let's be honest. Okay, your 3 is like some people's 12.
Yeah.
So.
Which is incredibly true. It's so true. It is very true.
If you come in as a 10, it's like almost overwhelming. It's like, well, she is
Well, calm down.
sunshine. The sun
That's
is
what
in
I'm
the
saying.
room.
Unicorns. Unicorns
Yes,
come onto
yes.
our team.
But I think too, like that, the fake it till you make it. They're also, is a part of like when you're showing up to your job.
Yeah.
That being one of them.
Yeah.
That's also the reality of just life. Like,
Yes.
regardless of how much empathy you want to have for your employees, whatever,
Yeah.
you also
have to show up.
did hire the person that came
Yeah.
in that interview. I guarantee was a 10 of 10 in their personality. They didn't come in like, this typically is how I might be. Like, you would hire them. So there's also a reality of like, yeah, we're all going to have off days, but especially in a people, like you can somewhat come into editing and sometimes not necessarily be in a great mood, and no one knows that
Yeah.
because the edit might still come together.
Yeah.
In a people first business, you kind of got to show up too.
Yeah.
And as an owner too, that's, I think the thing I struggle with is when I am not in a great mood, I'm not really great at trying to put myself in one. So I'm realizing there are times that like
Real
I
3 class.
shouldn't, there are times that I need to not go in the office right away. There are times that I need to do something that fills my tank because I don't want to be, there's this guy that we do a lot of work for, and he always says, are you the kind of person that when you go in a room, you build the energy up, or do you suck it right out? And I realized I don't want to be a person that sucks energy out. And so if I know that I'm not in a good mood and I know I'm going to suck energy out, I better do whatever I possibly can to fill up my tank in some way, or don't show up at all until I am.
Yeah.
Because especially from the boss perspective, everyone is going to feed off an energy that someone brings in the room.
Naturally feed off each
And
other.
I'm not great at that. And I think that it's more of me just realizing what I need to do to fill my tank and make sure that I try to fill it.
Absolutely. We
before I
literally
come
just
in.
had this conversation as a team. Like, what does that take? You know, does it mean that you watch something funny on YouTube? Like, do you have a
Right.
favorite skit that you go back to? Do you bump some Beyonce and have a party for one? I mean, does that mean you get your favorite beverage at your local
Yeah.
coffee shop?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? What do you just need a little pick me up? Like, and also just recognizing, like, what are those things that make you happy,
Yep.
and figuring that out, which is sometimes just as hard as even acknowledging, like, I am at a 3, you
Right.
know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, we just had this conversation as a team recently. What are those things? Like, you need that moment. What do you need in that moment? Like,
Right.
Yep.
to find that.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It's great.
I love it so much. Any final tips or questions or anything anybody wants to ask? Brittany?
Hit me, baby, one more time.
Kind of want to go to a class now.
I have been
oh my
trying
goodness,
to
yes.
get you.
I will
make that
say I
happen.
still don't feel that. I still don't feel like I want. Just kidding.
He's like, I like you. Know.
No,
And that's a hard
But
no.
yeah, kudos to you. I mean, my wife, like I said, she absolutely loves it. She does 3 a week because she literally loves that hour that she gets to literally just and for her, and she's not into exercising. So clearly, it says a lot.
But even that,
and now she is. But it says a lot about the culture, and which is why we wanted to have you on it, because I think that's a lot of people can teach fitness.
Yeah.
But you're obviously doing a great job with internal culture, because she never has like just a certain coach that she wants. She never has just a certain time. She's like, I go these times. I don't care who's there. It's good. I get the childcare. That's literally probably the biggest selling point to her.
It's a game changer. It's a game changer. But I do have to say, like, bravo and kudos to you for being supportive on the home side and letting her invest. It's really about empowering our community and our clients. Finding balance, but empowering them from within. And you creating that support, whether it be emotionally, financially, or whatever the case may be, whatever support she needs, that she is happy and confident to walk in, right? That she can do that. That she can come back feeling stronger, feeling more confident, feeling more pride, feeling like a better wife and a better mom. I mean, these are, and we talk about this often, these off-scale accomplishments that really are our number one goal. Yes, Bar 3 is a results-driven workout. There is no doubt about it, hands down. But these other emotions and feelings about feeling less stressed or less pain within our body or more mindful of how we're communicating with people in our family or within our business or in our professional worlds. But that also is supported by you on the home side, that you're encouraging this. And this is an investment in her whole body health.
Right.
Not just her physical health, but her mental health. And that's where that component of mindfulness is so vital. That she doesn't feel lonely at home because she knows she's supported by you. She doesn't feel lonely in our space because she's supported by us.
Right.
And that's, that right there is what we're doing as a brand. One, as an owner-operated small business, but as a huge brand, is redefining what success means in fitness. And that, the fact that your wife loves it and craves it and thrives when she's there and comes home happier, that is what's redefining the success of fitness. And truly, that is our mission.
It's awesome.
If you guys couldn't tell, this is why she has an amazing culture, right? I mean,
it's true.
hello.
Right.
It's just anytime you spend time with you, you just feel good. And I love that. And so one of our things too here at Scaling Creative is we're excited to just feature people on the podcast, that are local here in the Lehigh Valley and doing really great things that have heartbeats for culture. Cause I know for us, like, we love our clients so much, and like we love to do video for them because we know it's going to bring attention to them because they deserve it and we want to see them successful. And so when we have other companies that we just want to highlight what you're doing well and how you're doing the same thing in a different platform, in a different business, but just loving our area and our businesses and loving people. So
if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at either studio.
Okay.
I teach at both locations. So we have Bar 3 Allentown, which is on Hamilton Boulevard. And then we have Bar 3 Bethlehem, which is on Bath Pike. But
Probably
if there's
90% of the people listening to this are like, with the what roads? The what?
yeah, that may or may not.
From a social network place,
Absolutely.
that
So
would
if
be
you're
the
local,
best.
find me at the studio. If you're not local, we can connect directly. The quickest and best way would be through email, which is my first and last name, Brittany.Morse@bar3.com. And Morse is spelled like Morse code. And I would love to connect with, and Instagram, yes.
Yeah.
We have Bar 3 Lehigh Valley is our Instagram handle. And then our platform on Facebook, we have two, one for Bar 3 Bethlehem and one for Bar 3 Allentown.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, you're killing it.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
This was such an honor to participate. Thank you so much for having me.
Great.
And Michaela, I love you.
I love you too. Well, thank you guys so much for listening or watching, depending on what platform you're on right now. But comment. We would love to hear your thoughts about culture, building culture, and also if you have different ideas you want to hear on the podcast, we just want to hear from you. We're excited to give you guys more of what you want. So thanks for spending time with us.
Yes.
And we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.